Hi, let's talk about architecture as profession. This is one of the noble professions, and it is so vast, it is so dynamic, it is so um, impressive that um, you will really wonder that there are so many agencies that are involved. And as the term says, it's about architecture, which basically means we are talking of art and technology together. Very important thing that you must observe here is that you need to be very, very clear that it is a profession where you will have to interact, or rather you will have to have a great sense in which you will interact with a lot of technical aspects along with the art aspect. So when I say art, it basically means the way you visualize, the way you think, the way you are able to put your thought process um, in reality. So there are a lot of tools, there are a lot of applications, there are a lot of vendors, there are a lot of it's actually a team effort where you will really realize that it's not a single person who can really do things, but it has to have a team who is really going to do wonders for you and really going to create your imagination into a live um, process, or live reality. Now, architecture as a profession, a lot of students and faculties of other disciplines and parents come up and ask us, how do we really get into architecture and what is the future of architecture? Is it the right path for their children? And is it something that, does country like India has future, or maybe abroad has future? So now let me tell you that sky is the limit for this. Uh, Very, very importantly, um, you must understand that India is a growing country, and you are a part of the nation which is going to be $1 trillion economy. And we are talking of housing, we are talking of development of highways, we are talking of development of you know colonies, energy efficient buildings, green buildings, the smart cities. So there is so much around that needs to be done very, very cautiously. And this is a profession where you need to understand things at a micro level as well as at a macro level. So you need to be very, very conscious about how you are addressing the issues at macro level and how are you addressing the issues at micro level. Both the aspects are very, very important. Now when I say that aspects are important, it basically means that you have to be thorough with your subject, because when you're talking of a particular site that you're trying to do, it has to be very contextual. So when you're doing a project at let's say Ayodhya, the influence of Ram Mandir in the present context is important. It's a religious place, so I need to have that kind of a psyche in my mind, that I am going to be very cautious about how I'm going to design things. What is the cultural aspect of that place? What is the social aspect of that place? Is it something which is really gelling up with these two three aspects or not? So it is not that whatever you have in your mind you'll just come up and design, and it becomes out of context or something like that. So surroundings, micro environment, macro environment, infrastructure, sociology of that place, cultural aspect of that place, historical value of that place, or a contemporary value of that place plays a very, very important role. Now when you have to really think of a structure or a building, it has to be very functional. You just can't say that it's a building which is standing, but doesn't have proper services. So when I say services, you need to talk about water supply, you need to talk about plumbing, you need to talk about other hygienic things that are required, proper light and ventilation, um, air conditioning, and there are so many AI tools that are nowadays integrated in the building. um, Solar energy or any sort of energy that is going to get saved. So I was talking with one of my client couple of days back. They are like, they were so particular that even the water which is draining out from the AC pipes, they have kind of channelized, made a small pit out of it, and then they've been using it for small kitten garden that they have. So there are so many things like that which you can do and convert your building into a um, uh, energy efficient building. So I don't say that it will get 100% energy efficient, but to whatever extent that you can, you must do that. All right. So we have a question here. What is the scope of architecture? Oh, as I was talking about, it's going to be a $1 trillion economy, and the demand of housing, demand of infrastructure, all this is growing day by day. So role of architecture at micro level, at macro level is really getting wider and wider. And the best part is that you can think of yourself that you are going to be one person who's going to visualize things which are going to get implemented on this planet earth, and it is going to sustain for another 100, 200, 300 years. So you need to have that kind of a futuristic view to cater to the demands and needs which are going to develop in another 50 years, another 100 years. And hence this kind of a visualization that we are talking about is very, very important. So it's no more a time that I'm going to think of another 5 years, 10 years, but I need to have a vision, a very wide vision for another 50, 100 years. And for this I need realistic data that my country will demand in another 50 years. This could be for energy, this could be for transportation, this could be for planning, this could be for urban design, this could be for landscape, this could be for facilities, this could be for emerging demand of co-working spaces, and so on. So there's certainly no limit to this. But what is important is that an architect is one who's going to visualize things at all the levels, and then conceptualize everything, and put it up on the piece of paper, which is on a certain scale, which is then going to get executed and become on a live scale. Now there's another question that we have. uh, why should one choose? So this is a very interesting question, actually. There's something called aptitude, there is something called interest, there's something called passion. So you need to figure that out first, because this is a discipline where you are designing things in which bigger economics is involved. um, the cost of the projects are, of course, in crores. So anybody who's going to hire you as an architect is going to depend on you. And ultimately the way the budget in the project is going to get used depends on the way you visualize, the way you design, the way you put your questions to it. And it becomes interesting, to figure this out, that are you doing really justice to this project or not? Are you really involved into this with your heart or not? So you have to get your ideas, you have to convince the client, you have to listen to the ideas of the client, you have to really kind of modify them and put them in the picture where you need to be very, very realistic. So these are two aspects to it. One is that you have a budget. Second is that you have a dream or a visualized thing in your mind. Now your visualization can really be beyond somebody's budget. Your visualization could be very, very moderately thought of in terms of the budget. So these two things, when get balanced, I think the outcome comes very nice, and the project ultimately becomes very successful. So when I say successful, it doesn't mean that it is beautiful. Beauty in design is one aspect. There are a lot of other parameters and aspects to it. So one is the beauty, one is aesthetic, one is value, one is the budget, one is the energy consumption, another is the way it has been worked out. the materials that are being used, the technology that is being used, and the list is endless. So when you really get into this mode, you realize that uh, there are so many things that you have to integrate in a way that they are aesthetically nice and principally they are functionally very nice. So when the combination of these two happens, the project ultimately becomes very successful. So now we have a question that says, what sort of specializations are there in architecture? Oh, I think the specializations on a year on year basis are really increasing. Uh, to make you aware that there is a body which is Council of Architecture, which actually governs this profession of architecture. This is now a body where they have actually listed a lot of programs for at master's levels, which is a higher level. So the graduation level is Bachelor of Architecture, which is BR, and master's level is Master of Architecture, which is you know the further specialization of that. So I think there should be more than 15 to 18 official specializations which are approved by Council of Architecture. I'm not very sure with the number. The numbers could be a little here and there, but since you've asked me, uh, I would really like to add on. You have urban design, which talks about the urban areas, the places which are in between the houses or the society where people are living. You have landscape where people are living. How, and landscape is not only about planting trees; it's about creating micro and macro ecosystem. So I can do a landscape where I would like to I would like to plant such certain trees where I would like to invite a lot of birds and insects and stuff like that. I do a water body where tortoise or rather frogs come in the rainy seasons, and then they have a particular sound. So it is about ecosystem development. Then you have something in conservation where I'm going to restore old buildings and do an adaptive reuse. And in fact, I'm going to do a complete video on architectural restoration of the projects. Then you have planning. There are again multiple level of plannings. You have transportation planning, you have urban planning, you have regional planning, you have infrastructure planning, you have housing, and the list is quite on. You have sustainable architecture, you have green building architecture, um, urban design I had already mentioned. Then you have theory and design. So the list is very long, and you can pick up whatever interests you, and a lot of them are kind of overlapped and interrelated. So we have a question from Shivam, sir, aap site knowledge dijiye interior design ka. All right, so on our channel, Shivam, we have a detailed video of a complete listing of how you should do a site visit. When you do a site visit with respect to the interior, there is a checklist also. So if you could just say a hello there on this once the video gets over, it will be uploaded. So just write your question. We will share the link of that video, and you can go through that, and I'm sure that video is going to be very useful, and most of your questions are going to get answered. So yeah, there are very important that site knowledge in videos, or it is site knowledge architecture from site and oh yes, I totally agree with you. Site knowledge is very important. Most of the students, while they are studying, should start visiting the sites and also do the market surveys, so that they have a global understanding of what materials are there, and especially the kind of trend that is going on in the market is very important. So you must understand that this is something that a person will have to kind of do on a day-to-day basis, and he must get involved with the good companies, the good brands, and other um, other agencies which are supplying the materials and also helping the designers to make them aware of the latest material and technology which is available in the market. I think I've missed one question. Where should I do my training? Oh, training is a very important aspect. you know Nowadays there is a drift in uh, in training. All these young guys who are coming are very well acquainted with their softwares, and some of them also talk about AI tools. So when you bring in these people to your office, they also educate your staff, that kind of help you to make understand that these are the new softwares which are going on in the market, these are the AI tools which can be very helpful to you in the development of the projects. But at the end of the day, if I talk about internship, I think you should really do it at a place where you learn a lot. So internship is not about earning, internship is not about understanding um, you know the the financial part of it. But it is, yes, of course, financial part is a part of it, but the major part is that whatever you've studied in these 3 years, 4 years of your academic life, you should be able to put that up across in the profession of architecture, which is where your internship plays a very important role. And you should pick up an office where, for me, big office or a small office really doesn't matter, but what matters is that how much of learning are you really getting in this particular office. So if you learn a lot, and if, at the end of the day, if you um, are able to take back something from the office, I think the job is done, and you've really made a good mark as far as internship is concerned. Uh, so there's another question that says, in first year, is first year common like foundation in many other courses? I think even now the course is broadly governed by a academic body, and they have a set course which everybody follows across. Um, this course has to be followed by all the colleges which are under Council of Architecture, and I'm sure there are certain colleges which fall under private university, so there can be a little bit of program here and there. But yes, first year is broadly about um, having a broad understanding of what architecture is, the basic drawings that are going to be done. They are that they're able to make the technical drawings, because when they do the drawings for the buildings, so they should be able to cut the sections. They should be able to visualize the elevations. They should be able to talk about how the sciography is falling, how the sun is moving. So for architecture, the language is um, the drawing. Now the drawing is very important. So I come across a lot of offices where they do drawings so nicely that during the project they really don't have to bother uh, whether electrician is working at this point of time, or the plumber is working, or some X person is working, or Y person is working. It is simple that once the drawings are ready, the project is working very well on the site, and there is no disturbance whatsoever. So it's very, very important for you to understand that in the first year, what they're trying to tell you is a program or a foundation or a base, whatever you want to call that. These are people who are or rather the faculty is trying to put the kind of knowledge that tomorrow, whatever drawing or a project or visualization you have in your mind, you can put that on a piece of paper very nicely, very clearly, very aesthetically, so that the other person understands and can execute this on site. So this execution is very, very important. So that's my answer to you when you say that is first year common in foundation. And that's actually a good question. All right, so we have a question. Oh, somebody is saying it's very informative. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure that you're online and listening to this video. So now we have a question: who should choose profession of architecture? I think everybody should choose profession of architecture, because it's a very, very enlightening profession. Where I mean, you must understand that it is one profession. I mean, just to visualize the strength of the profession. Let's say you design a house of a person. There's a space where you do a bedroom, a kitchen, living area, dining area, you have the toilets and so on. You are the one who decides where is he going to sleep, Where is he going to eat his food? Where is the food going to get cooked? Where is these utensils going to pick? So whatever you draw on this piece of paper, when you really visualize this in 3D, it is somebody's house. And house is not something which is built on a day-to-day basis. It's like, you do once in a lifetime, or maybe nowadays some people do it twice or thrice. But what I'm trying to understand is that, or trying to convey is that, you need to understand that your strength is about creating spaces in which the person is going to spend his life. So you have to be very cautious, you have to be very knowledgeable, you have to understand the taste of this person, and also you need to figure this out, that whatever service you are delivering, whatever design you are delivering, is is a is a is a is a space where he's going to spend his entire life. So you have to be cautious, you have to be very very uh, very what do you call, um, sensible in putting those things on the paper. Um, Another question is, what should be a budding architect? What should a budding architect should focus on other than academic, and how one should interact with the client? Okay. So now these are two questions. One, when you say a budding architect, is somebody who has graduated, and one category is somebody who's studying. So the one who's studying, I think he should really focus a lot on what is going on in terms of the trend, in terms of the material, in terms of how the market is functioning. Any site that he see around, he should go and visit and see how the construction is going on, how things are getting executed, what is the role of an architect, how, on what stage plumber is coming, on what stage electrician is coming, whether these agencies are coming multiple times, in the sense there's some part of plumbing that is to be done now, then there is another agency is to take the work forward. Once that is complete, again the plumber will come, likewise for electrician, likewise for an air conditioner, likewise for a person who's doing the false ceiling, and so on. So once you do that, you start understanding that it is not only one activity that is just falling in place, but there are a lot of multiple agencies which are going to work, and the work of one agency is dependent on the other, and is dependent on the third, and is dependent on the fourth, and only then again agency work can one can take the work forward. So it's always a to and fro kind of a system that has to be organized on the site. So if you understand this part very clearly, you will understand the overall flow of construction or the progress that has to happen on site. Now we have another one. What should a budding architect, one should interact, how should one interact with the client? I think interact has the client has to interact with you, the client has to give you a brief, the client has to be very clear on what he wants, and once he tells you what he wants, then it is your role and your duty to kind of deliver uh, what he really desire. So it's important for you to sink in that you are kind of a person who's actually creating his imagination. On certain points he could be totally wrong, because he doesn't have the technical understanding, he doesn't have the he doesn't have understanding of the values, um, may not have be very technically strong. So you need to guide him there, that if you're doing a particular thing, there is a particular reason that you're trying to do that, so that you don't deviate here and there and left and right. So it becomes very very clear focus that client's brief is very important for you when you start working on the elevations or the conceptuals or the plans or the volumetric study. And always remember that it is not a 2D thing, it is a 3D thing. When you draw a room of a particular size, always remember the height as well. And when you put the height, remember the kind of services that are going to run from the ceiling. So sometimes when we do a hotel project, we realize that you can have services for about 2 feet, 2.5 feet. So the height that you have to take will go away by 2.5 feet, because you'll have services running across the ceiling. So you need to kind of moderate your ceilings accordingly. So when you talk about L and B, H is equally important. Let me take up another question. Okay, I think there's one question which talks about where the object placed for modular kitchen. Oh, I think the kitchen in itself is one subject. I think I'll do some another video where we can talk about the working triangle in the kitchen, and how the overall layout of the kitchen in terms of the height, in terms of the placing can be done. So yes, we can take that up. It's a good suggestion. I would request you to write it down. Once the video is uploaded, so we'll work on it, and one Sunday, I'll really do that. Um, then we have, what is the process of getting into architecture? Okay, so people who are interested in taking up this profession of architecture, there are two ways of doing getting into this profession. One is NATA, which is National Aptitude Test in Architecture, which is conducted by Council of Architecture. Second is your JEE Paper 2. So this is a paper of IIT, and IIT one is corely for engineering, and IIT JEE paper 2 is predominantly for your architecture colleges. And most of these colleges, most of the central government colleges are through IIT JEE paper 2. However, this score is also valid for a lot of other colleges. I don't have the real list of it at this point of time, but if you ask for it, we can kind of do some research and really provide this uh, to you. Now, as I was mentioning about the integration of technology in architecture, um, developments in the construction, understanding various materials which are now going to be used is very dynamic and very, very challenging. I must tell you that things are changing very fast, whether it is construction or whether it's some other field. AI is really getting integrated on a day-to-day basis, and we must realize that the way practice is happening now is going to be very different what it is going to happen 10 years down the line. You must also realize that tools, technology, lifestyle of people is changing very fast. So even if you compare this lifestyle 20 years back, where you have seen things, when you revise that, when you rewind your memory, you will see that there is a lot of difference in the lifestyle of people. This lifestyle has to be catered by architects. This is something which will let you have the cutting edge above those people who are still working in a style which used to be 5 years down the line. So I'm not getting into details of it, but I see a lot of drift psychologically, emotionally, culturally, sociologically, and the way people have started thinking about themselves and their family structures. There's a lot of drift. So that is also addressed when we talk of architecture. Is aptitude really important to become an architect? I think yes, it is very important, because you are somebody who's visualizing a building which is on a land which is empty, which is barren. However, you have to have that 3D notion in your mind, that how will this building look like. You can close your eyes and you can move around this building, you can go from room to room, you can stand outside the house 20 feet away, you can visualize this, you can go 40 feet away, visualize this, you can be on the top, sorry, and you can visualize this. But sorry, this kind of visualization is very important, because you have to create this, you have to understand the context. So when you have a site, you realize there's a building which is 10 stories high, your style, your perception has to change. You are doing a farmhouse which is in middle of nowhere, you have all sand dunes around, your visualization will change. So your attitude towards the site, your understanding towards the context is very important, and your understanding to the materials available, local people available there, uh, the kind of tools that they have, and the specialization that they have. is very important, because they are the ones who are going to execute that. And when you do that with respect to the surrounding, that building stays and gels up for a very very long time. For example, if I talk about doing a building in Jaisalmer, I would really do something which is in stones, uh, and the building has to gel up with the overall environment and climate. But at the same time, if you ask me to do a building in Bombay, I think I'm going to do a different building, because the climate, the people, culture, everything is different. And tomorrow, if you take me to Assam or maybe Arunachal Pradesh, I'll do something which is entirely different in terms of the material, in terms of the scale, size, everything. So it is very, very contextual. So we have another question: is aptitude really important? So I think to become an architect, yes, I think it is very, very important, because that's what gives you a visualization, and what gives you uh, understanding of how things will be different for you. Now, there are certain norms, there are certain bylaws that you have to follow. A lot of times we get a long brief from the client, and the land is this much, and sometimes it happens the other way around also, that the requirement is small and the land size is too big. So we have to be very cautious, so that if the land is big, you do the construction at a place where you leave the space for a future construction. Now, I would not like to prioritize and make something right in the center today, so that tomorrow, then the whole thing on all the four sides is empty. So when I have to do a future expansion, this becomes a part of the center, and this becomes the in the heart of the city. That becomes very, very challenging. So you have to be very cautious when you're dealing with the smaller side and when you're dealing with the bigger side. But there's a very good part that now we have, that is BAR. I don't know if you're aware of this. So in Rajasthan, you have built up area ratio. This is actually a volumetric study. So there are certain values where they give you a lot of height, and they have given you a setback. So when you can reduce the shrink the you can enlarge the setbacks, you can take more height, you can reduce the height and take a little width, as per the permissible setback. So it gives you a very good volumetric understanding of how to really deal with the site. um, there's another question: I am interested in landscape, please guide me. Landscape is another very important subject, and it's an upcoming subject, I must tell you. People have eventually realized that landscape is not only about planting trees, but as I mentioned, it's about creating ecosystem. Now this ecosystem is at micro level as well as at macro level. When you're doing something in house, it could be treated as a micro level. So there are a lot of plants which are insect repellents, there are a lot of trees which are bird attracting trees, there are a lot of fruit trees, there are a lot of hybrid trees, there are a lot of grafted trees. So it's not only the aesthetics of it, it is also the functional. So tomorrow, if I have to have a kitchen garden, so I'll get a lot of grafted plants and trees and plant there. Daily vegetables that I'm having are going to be fresh, are going to be very organic, as the term is very much in trend nowadays. So it becomes very, very important um, to for you to understand that landscape, when you talk about, is not only limited to the garden, but I'm talking when I'm walking on the street, there's a landscape. When I'm walking in a garden, there is a landscape. When I'm in the forest, there is a landscape. When I'm, flying and I look down onto the earth, there is a landscape. So this whole thing, where you're trying to do something with the nature, you have to be very cautious, you have to be very sensitive, and you have to be very, very object friendly. And at the same time, when you consider all these aspects, you have to be very, very particular of what is the demand that you have or the client have, so that you can really cater to that. If I have another question here, this says, if I do architecture, can I also practice interior design? Oh, I think it's a very, very common question, and a straight, clear answer to this is yes. Because when you do architecture, um, it's a much bigger umbrella that you are into, and you can definitely practice architecture. But in last few years, I see that interiors is also getting specialized, and um, there are a lot of trends that are there in interiors. So if you can really cope up yourself with those kind of trends, if you can really um, understand those aspects of interior design very well, and you have a team who can really do good working drawings, I think you can really get into this profession and do really very well. If I have to answer very clearly that as an architect, can you practice interior design? My answer is yes, you can practice as an interior designer and do well. Um, all right, so guys, I think I had a great time interacting with you. There are so many questions that I have here, which I've been able to answer. But I would like to end up my today's session, and I hope we all will meet next Sunday at 12 o'clock. If you guys have any important topic that you would like me to talk upon, please write it down in our comment box, and we will surely do a video. Please keep on looking on our update on Friday. We generally upload our topic on Friday. If that interests you, you can really go ahead with it. Thank you. Have a nice day. Thank you.